The cold metal floor pressed against Lee Taemin's face as he slowly opened his eyes. His head pounded like someone had hit him with a hammer. The last thing he remembered was running through the forest during military training. Then everything went black. Now he was somewhere else entirely. Taemin pushed himself up and looked around. He was in a small metal room with no windows. The walls were smooth and silver, like the inside of a spaceship from old movies. A soft blue light came from somewhere in the ceiling, but he could not see where. He was not alone. Around him, other people were waking up too. Men and women of different ages, all looking confused and scared. Taemin counted 32 people in the room. Most were civilians wearing normal clothes. A few wore military uniforms like his own. A woman with short black hair sat up near him. She wore a medical uniform with a name tag that said, Park Soo-jin. Her eyes were sharp and alert, not panicked like the others. "Where are we?" she asked, quietly. Before Taemin could answer, a man in hiking gear stood up on the other side of the room. He was tall and strong-looking, with steady hands that showed he knew how to survive in the wild. His name tag read Kim Min-ho. "This is not Earth," Min-ho said, looking at the strange walls. "Look at how this metal bends. We do not have technology like this." Other people began to panic. A young woman started crying. An old man pounded on the walls and shouted for help. But the walls did not make any sound when he hit them. Suddenly, the room filled with a low humming noise. The air in front of them began to shimmer like heat waves on hot pavement. Then shapes appeared in the shimmer. They were not human shapes. The first creature was 8 feet tall with purple skin that looked like leather. It had 4 arms and yellow eyes that glowed in the dim light. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth, and when it spoke, the words came out like a growl. The second creature was smaller but looked even more dangerous. It had gray skin covered in scales, and its fingers ended in claws that could cut through metal. When it moved, it made no sound at all. The third creature was the strangest of all. It looked like a giant insect standing on 2 legs. Its head was covered in small black eyes, and its mouth moved sideways instead of up and down. The tall purple creature stepped forward. When it spoke, somehow the humans could understand its words, even though it was clearly not speaking any human language. "Welcome to Kepler 442b, the creature said in a voice like grinding stone. "I am Overlord Rixthar of the Vorthak Empire. You have been selected to participate in the Great Hunt." The humans looked at each other in confusion and fear. The old man who had been pounding on the wall stepped forward. "What do you want with us?" he demanded. "Take us back to Earth right now." Overlord Rixthar made a sound that might have been laughter, but it sounded more like metal scraping against rock. "You misunderstand your situation," the alien said. "You are no longer on your primitive world. You are now on a hunting preserve that has existed for over 1,000 of your years. Species from across the galaxy come here to hunt the most dangerous game." "What game?" Soo-jin asked, though Taemin could tell from her voice that she already suspected the answer. "You are the game," the gray-scaled creature said in a voice like whispers. "Humans have proven to be most entertaining prey. You run in interesting patterns, you make such wonderful sounds when you are afraid, and your emotional responses provide excellent entertainment for our customers." The room exploded into chaos. People screamed and cried and begged. Some tried to rush the aliens, but they passed right through them like they were made of air. The aliens were not really there. They were speaking through some kind of projection. Taemin stayed calm and watched. His military training had taught him to gather information before acting. These creatures were advanced enough to kidnap humans from Earth and transport them across space. They had technology that could translate languages instantly, and they thought of humans as nothing more than animals to be hunted for sport. "The rules are simple," Overlord Rixthar continued as if nothing had happened. "You will be released into the wilderness of this planet. You have 72 hours to survive. During this time, paying customers from various species will hunt you for sport and trophies." The insect creature clicked its mouth parts together. "The planet contains many dangers beyond the hunters. Poisonous plants, predatory animals, and environmental hazards that will test your primitive survival skills. Most prey species last less than 12 hours. But humans are special, the gray creature whispered. You last longer than most. You fight harder. You suffer more beautifully. This is why you command such high prices from our customers. Minho stepped forward, his face hard with anger. And if we refuse to play your sick game? Refusal is not possible, Overlord Rixthar said. You will be released into the hunting grounds whether you cooperate or not. However, those who provide better entertainment may earn quicker deaths. Taemin studied the three aliens as they spoke. He noticed things that others missed. The way they held themselves showed they thought they were completely superior to humans. They spoke about the hunt like it was a business, not personal. This meant they followed rules and patterns. Most importantly, they clearly believed humans were weak and stupid. They expected fear and panic and helpless running. They had no idea what a trained soldier could do when pushed to the limit. Preparation. Time is over, the insect creature announced. Transport to the hunting grounds begins now. The metal walls around them began to change. What had seemed solid became transparent, and the humans could see they were inside a massive spaceship floating above a green and purple planet. Other ships hung in space around them, filled with alien creatures watching and waiting. Remember, Overlord Rixthar said as the room began to move, you exist now only for the entertainment of your betters. Try to make your deaths memorable. The transport chamber separated from the main ship and began to fall toward the planet below. Through the transparent walls, Taemin could see alien forests and strange mountains growing larger as they descended. He looked at Sujin and Minho. Both had the same hard look in their eyes that he felt in his own heart. They were not going to die easily, and maybe if they were smart and lucky and more dangerous than these aliens expected, they were not going to die at all. The chamber hit the ground with a soft thud. The walls dissolved completely, leaving the 32 humans standing in an alien wilderness under a red sky. In the distance, Taemin could hear the sound of hunting calls from creatures that had never learned to fear humans. That was about to change. The alien forest was nothing like Earth. Purple trees stretched high into the red sky, their leaves making soft whistling sounds in the wind. Strange flowers glowed with their own light, and the ground was covered with plants that moved when no one was looking. Most of the humans scattered in different directions as soon as the transport chamber disappeared. They ran screaming into the forest, exactly what the aliens expected them to do. Taemin watched them go and shook his head. Running blind would only get them killed faster. We need to stay together, he told Sujin and Minho. 3 people, working as a team, have a better chance than 30 people running in panic. Sujin nodded and shouldered a small medical bag she had managed to keep during the kidnapping. I can treat injuries and identify what might be poisonous, but I do not know anything about alien biology. Minho knelt down and touched the strange purple soil. This place has breathable air and gravity similar to Earth. The plants are different, but some basic survival rules should still work. We need water, shelter, and food. We need more than that, Taemin said quietly. We need to understand our hunters. Above them, alien ships floated in the red sky like metal clouds. Taemin could see movement in some of them. The customers were watching, waiting for the show to begin. He wondered how long it would take for the first hunters to reach the ground. They did not have to wait long. A sleek silver craft landed in a clearing about half a mile away. Through the alien trees, Taemin could see shapes moving toward their position. The hunt had officially begun. This way, Taemin whispered, leading his companions deeper into the forest. He had chosen their direction carefully. While the other humans had run toward what looked like easier ground, Taemin headed toward a rocky area with caves and cliffs. It would be harder to move through, but it would also provide better hiding places and defensive positions. As they moved, Taemin began to notice patterns in how their hunters operated. The aliens made noise as they moved, crashing through the forest like they owned it. They used bright lights and loud communication devices. Most importantly, they seemed to expect their prey to keep running in straight lines. They hunt like Earth hunters going after deer. Minho observed quietly. They expect us to panic and make mistakes. Then we will not panic, Taemin replied. And we will not make the mistakes they expect. They found a cave system in a cliff face that Minho said looked stable. The entrance was small and hidden, behind hanging vines, but the inside opened up into several connected chambers. Better yet, the rock had veins of some kind of metal that seemed to interfere with the hunters' scanning equipment. While Su-jin set up a basic medical station, Minho explored the cave system and found a source of fresh water. Taemin studied the hunting patterns through the cave entrance. The first group of hunters was Krillian, according to what he had overheard from the aliens on the ship. They were tall and powerful, with thick armor and energy weapons, but they were also arrogant and careless. They expected easy prey and were not prepared for resistance. The second group looked different. These were smaller and moved more quietly. They had gray skin and moved like shadows between the trees. Taemin remembered the whispering voice from the ship. These were the dangerous ones. As night fell on the alien world, the forest became even stranger. Some plants glowed brighter in the darkness, while others seemed to disappear completely. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, and Taemin could not tell which ones came from native animals and which ones came from the hunters. That was when they heard the screaming. It came from about a mile away, where some of the other humans had fled. The sound was cut short very quickly, followed by alien voices celebrating their success. Taemin felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. They are picking off the runners one by one, Su-jin said quietly. Just like wolves hunting deer. We need to help the others, Minho said. But Taemin shook his head. We cannot help them by getting ourselves killed, he replied. But we can make the hunters pay for what they are doing. 2 hours later, Taemin slipped out of the cave, alone. He had spent the time observing and learning. The Krillian hunters moved in predictable patterns, always taking the easiest path through the forest. They used their energy weapons to cut through obstacles instead of going around them. And they had gotten lazy from years of hunting prey that could not fight back. Taemin found his target quickly, a lone Krillian hunter who had separated from his group to investigate some movement in the bushes. The alien was twice Taemin's size and covered in armor, but he was also completely focused on what was in front of him. The attack was over in seconds. Taemin had learned knife fighting in the military, but he had also learned patience and timing. The Krillian never saw him coming. When it was over, Taemin took the alien's weapon and communication device. The weapon was strange but simple enough to figure out. The communication device was more complicated, but it gave him access to the hunter's coordination network. As he listened to their radio chatter, Taemin began to understand how the hunt really worked. The different alien species did not cooperate with each other. They competed for the best kills and the most impressive trophies. They had schedules and territories and rules about who could hunt where. All of those rules and patterns could be turned against them. Back at the cave, Su-jin and Minho stared at the alien weapon in shock. You killed one of them, Su-jin whispered. Yes, Taemin said simply. And now we know they can be killed. Over the communication device, they could hear confusion spreading through the hunting parties. One of their members had missed a scheduled check-in. His body had been found stripped of weapons and equipment. They do not understand what happened, Minho said, listening to the alien voices. They think it was an accident or maybe one of the native predators. Taemin smiled for the first time since arriving on this world. It was not a pleasant smile. Good, he said. Let them keep thinking that, for now. Outside the cave, the alien forest continued its strange night sounds. But now there was something new moving through the darkness, something that had learned the hunters could bleed just like any other creature. The prey had become the predator, and the real hunt was just beginning. 3 days had passed since the hunt began, and something was very wrong. The alien hunting parties huddled in their camps, checking their weapons and scanning devices over and over. 6 of their members had disappeared, not killed by native predators or environmental hazards. Disappeared. Their bodies were found in impossible places, stripped of equipment, positioned in ways that showed someone had intimate knowledge of alien anatomy. The wounds were precise, surgical, created by someone who understood exactly where each species was most vulnerable. Overlord Rixthar watched the orbital feeds with growing unease. This was not how the Great Hunt was supposed to work. The humans should have been extinct by now, their deaths providing entertainment for the paying customers. Instead, his customers were demanding refunds and threatening to leave. Down in the forest, Taemin had become something new. He moved through the alien wilderness like a ghost. The strange plants and dangerous animals that killed other humans had become his allies. He had learned which flowers released toxic spores when disturbed, and he used them to create traps. He had discovered which native beasts were territorial, and he led hunting parties into their domains. The alien weapon he had taken from his first kill had been joined by others. Energy rifles, plasma grenades, scanning devices, communication equipment. Each dead hunter provided new tools and new knowledge about how the enemy operated. But it was not just the weapons that had changed Taemin. Something fundamental had shifted inside him when he witnessed the death of a human child 3 days ago. The child had been maybe 8 years old, a little girl who had somehow been caught in the alien kidnapping. Taemin had found her body in a clearing, surrounded by the marks of Krillian hunters who had laughed as they collected their trophy. That was when the last piece of civilized humanity died inside Lee Taemin. Back at the cave, Sujin and Minho had rescued 17 other humans. Most were injured, traumatized, barely able to function. Sujin worked around the clock treating wounds and trying to keep people alive. Minho had turned their cave system into a fortress, using alien technology to create traps and warning systems. But both of them watched Taemin with growing concern. He still looked human. He still spoke in the same quiet voice. But there was something in his eyes now that had not been there before. Something cold and predatory that made even his allies nervous. "How many today?" Minho asked as Taemin returned from another night hunt. 2 Krillians and one of the gray ones, Taemin replied, cleaning purple blood from a captured alien blade. "The gray ones are getting smarter. They travel in groups now and avoid the areas where their friends died. You need to be careful," Sujin said. "I know you want revenge for what they did to that child, but if you take too many risks..." "Risk?" Taemin looked at her with those cold eyes. "They made a mistake when they brought us here. They think they are the predators and we are the prey. But humans did not climb to the top of Earth's food chain by being prey. We got there by being better predators than anything else on the planet." That afternoon, storm clouds gathered in the red sky. The alien weather patterns were different from Earth, but Minho recognized the signs of a major storm system. As the first drops of rain began to fall, they noticed something strange. The rain was red, colored by particles in the alien atmosphere. "Blood rain," one of the rescued humans whispered, staring out at the crimson drops. "It looks like blood." Taemin stood at the cave entrance watching the red rain fall on the purple forest. In the distance, he could see the lights of the alien hunting camp. They had consolidated their forces, afraid to spread out after losing so many hunters. "They are scared," he said quietly. "Good. They should be." That night, during the worst of the storm, Taemin launched his most daring attack yet. The alien forward command post was supposed to be impregnable. Energy shields, automated defenses, elite Krillian warriors on patrol. But Taemin had spent days studying their patterns, learning their technology, understanding their weaknesses. The storm provided perfect cover. The red rain interfered with their sensors, and the lightning masked the sound of his approach. Most importantly, the aliens had never faced an enemy who used their own environment against them. Taemin moved through their defenses like water flowing around rocks. Where they expected frontal assault, he provided stealth. Where they watched for stealth, he used the storm itself as a weapon, redirecting lightning strikes into their equipment. The battle was over in minutes, when the storm cleared. 17 elite Krillian hunters lay dead around their command post. Their equipment was gone, their communication codes compromised, their bodies arranged in a pattern that sent a clear message to anyone who found them. The prey was no longer running. Taemin stood in the center of the devastation, covered in purple, alien blood. The red rain had washed some of it away, but more kept flowing from the fresh wounds around him. He looked up at the alien ships in the sky, knowing their cameras were recording everything, and then he began to laugh. It was not a sound of joy or madness. It was something deeper and more terrifying. The laugh of someone who had embraced what he had become and found it good. The laugh of a predator who had discovered that his prey was easier to kill than he had ever imagined. The sound echoed across the forest and up to the orbital cameras. Across the galaxy, alien customers watched in horror as a human stood in the rain that looked like blood, laughing at the death he had created. In their luxurious ships, the alien spectators began to understand that they were no longer watching entertainment. They were watching something that challenged everything they believed about the natural order of the universe. On the planet below, Taemin gathered the weapons and equipment from the dead hunters. He had work to do. The main alien compound was only 5 miles away, and it was full of creatures who thought they were safe behind walls and shields. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The blood rain continued to fall, washing the purple, alien blood from Taemin's hands, but not from his soul. He had become exactly what the galaxy needed him to become. Something that would make the predators afraid to hunt ever again. The laughter echoed through the forest long after he disappeared, into the night. The great hunt had become a nightmare. What was supposed to be 72 hours of entertainment had stretched into 3 weeks of terror. Half the alien hunters were dead, their bodies found in increasingly impossible locations. The other half refused to leave their fortified positions, huddled together like frightened children. Across the galaxy, the story spread like wildfire. A single human had turned the most prestigious hunting event in known space into a massacre. The orbital cameras captured everything, broadcasting Taemin's methodical destruction of supposedly superior alien warriors to billions of horrified viewers. The alien customers who had paid enormous sums to participate in the hunt now demanded evacuation. But Overlord Rixthar could not simply call off the event without losing face among the galactic elite. Instead, he made the situation worse by doubling down. Bring in the military units, he ordered his subordinates. Deploy the cybernetically enhanced Vorthak Guard. Use whatever force is necessary to end this humiliation. But Taemin had evolved beyond their understanding. He no longer fought like a human soldier. He had learned to think like his alien enemies, to understand their psychology, their fears, their cultural blind spots. Most importantly, he had discovered that these supposedly superior species all shared one fundamental weakness. They had never faced prey that refused to accept its role in their natural order. The captured alien equipment had taught him their languages. Sujin helped him practice the complex sounds and grammar structures until he could speak perfect Krillian, flawless Vorthak, and whispered Zephyrian. He used this knowledge to intercept their communications and turn their own coordination against them. The psychological warfare began in earnest. Taemin would break into their communication networks during their sleep cycles, speaking to them, in their own languages with perfect pronunciation and cultural understanding. But the words he spoke were not threats, they were promises. I know your name, Hunter Vexthal, he would whisper in perfect Krillian during the night watch. I know your family unit designation. I know your homeworld coordinates. When I finish with the hunters on this planet, I will visit your spawn mates and teach them what you taught that human child. The hunters would trace the signal, only to find it coming from the communication device of a colleague who had died weeks ago. Equipment that should have been destroyed but somehow kept broadcasting from impossible locations. You sleep poorly, Commander Zarkex, he would say in flawless Vorthak military dialect. You dream of purple blood and red rain. You wonder if your advanced armor will protect you when I come. It will not. The alien command structure began to collapse. Hunters refused orders, demanded immediate evacuation, or simply stopped responding to communications altogether. Some tried to desert, only to be found dead in their escape pods with notes written in their own languages, explaining exactly how they had failed their comrades. Minho had become Taemin's technical specialist, learning to modify and combine alien technologies in ways their original creators never intended. He built devices that could hijack orbital communication satellites, ensuring that every alien viewer across the galaxy watched as their champions fell one by one. Su Jin had evolved too, though in a different direction. She had learned enough alien biology to treat the injuries of rescued humans, but also to understand the weak points of every species they encountered. Her medical knowledge had become a weapon as sharp as any blade. The three of them had rescued 48 humans. From the hunting grounds, most were broken, traumatized survivors who could barely function. But a few had found strength in their anger, and they helped fortify the cave system into an underground fortress. Still, it was Taemin who stalked through the alien night like a force of nature. He had claimed the equipment of dozens of dead hunters: energy weapons, stealth fields, personal shields, scanning devices, translation matrices. But more than equipment, he had claimed their fear. The aliens had begun calling him something in their languages that translated roughly as the Laughing. Death. The name spread through their ranks like a virus. Hunters would whisper it when they thought no one was listening. Some refused to patrol areas where the laughter had been heard. Others requested transfer to different hunting preserves, anywhere that was not this cursed world. But Taemin was not finished with them. The main alien compound was a fortress built into a mountain, protected by energy shields and automated defense systems. Inside, Overlord Rixthar waited with his elite cybernetically enhanced guards and the most advanced military technology the Vorthak Empire could provide. They thought they were safe behind walls and weapons. They were wrong. Taemin began, his final assault not with violence but with information. Using the captured communication codes, he accessed the compound's internal systems and learned everything about its defenses, its personnel, its weaknesses. He discovered that Overlord Rixthar had a family unit on the Vorthak homeworld. Spawn mates. And genetic partners who lived in luxury built on the suffering of creatures like the humans they had hunted for sport. That night, using hijacked orbital communication arrays, Taemin made a broadcast that reached every corner of the galaxy. He spoke in perfect Vorthak, his words translated into hundreds of languages for the billions of alien viewers. "My name is Lee Taemin," he said, standing in the red rain with alien blood still wet on his hands. "I am human. You brought me here, to be hunted for your entertainment. You made me watch children die for your pleasure. You thought I was prey in your natural order. The laughter that followed chilled the souls of every alien who heard it. You were wrong. I am not prey. I am the thing that hunts predators. I am the nightmare that superior species have when they sleep. And when I am finished with the creatures, on this world I will remember every name, every face, every homeworld coordinate I have learned." He held up a data device containing terabytes of information stolen from the alien systems. Your customers, your families, your governments. I have their locations, I have their weaknesses, and I have all the time in the universe to visit each one and teach them what you taught me. The broadcast ended with that terrifying laughter echoing across space. Within hours, the Galactic Coalition that had sponsored the Great Hunt issued emergency evacuation orders. Alien governments recalled their citizens from hunting preserves across the galaxy. The entertainment industry that had profited from centuries of blood sport began to collapse as customers fled in terror. But for Overlord Rixthar, trapped in his fortress with his elite guards, evacuation was no longer an option. Taemin was coming for him personally, and there was nowhere in the galaxy far enough to run. The final hunt was about to begin. The assault on the main compound began at dawn on the alien world, when the red sun cast long shadows across the purple landscape. But Taemin did not attack the way his enemies expected. He had learned too much about their psychology to make it that simple. Instead, he waited. For 3 days, he let them see him in the distance, a figure standing on the ridgeline, watching their fortress. Sometimes he would wave. Sometimes he would hold up pieces of equipment taken from their dead. "Comrades!" Always he would disappear before they could target him with their weapons. The psychological pressure was unbearable. The cybernetically enhanced Vorthak guards, supposedly the most elite warriors in the galaxy, began to crack under the strain. They knew he was coming. They knew their defenses had not stopped him before. And they knew that dozens of their colleagues had underestimated the human and died for their arrogance. On the fourth night, Taemin finally moved. The compound's shields were designed to stop direct assault, orbital bombardment, even teleportation attacks, but they were not designed to stop someone who understood the technology better than its creators did. Minho had taught him how alien shield generators worked, and Sujin had helped him understand the biological needs of the creatures operating them. Taemin did not break through the shields. He convinced them to let him in, using captured access, codes, and perfect knowledge of Vorthak military protocols. He walked through the front entrance wearing the armor of a dead guard. The automated systems recognized the equipment and granted him passage. By the time the real guards realized what had happened, he was already inside their supposedly impregnable fortress. What followed was not a battle, it was a demonstration. Taemin moved through the compound like a force of nature, using every lesson he had learned during weeks of hunting the hunters. He turned their own security systems against them, using their communication networks to coordinate attacks on themselves. He released the native predators they had captured for arena fights, letting alien beasts settle old scores with their former captors. Most importantly, he made sure the orbital cameras captured everything. The galaxy watched in horrified fascination as a single human dismantled the most advanced military installation the hunting industry had ever created, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through pure adaptive intelligence and the kind of creative violence that only desperate prey could conceive. Overlord Rixthar made his final stand in the command center, surrounded by his last remaining guards. When Taemin finally reached him, the alien overlord tried to maintain his superiority, even as his empire crumbled around him. "You are a monster," Rixthar snarled, his yellow eyes blazing with hatred. "You have perverted the natural order. Prey does not hunt predators. The weak do not destroy the strong. You are an abomination that threatens the stability of galactic civilization." Taemin looked at him with those cold, predatory eyes that had haunted alien nightmares for weeks. When he spoke, his voice carried that same terrifying laughter that had become legendary across the stars. "You made me hunt or be hunted," he said quietly. "I chose to hunt. You made me prey or predator. I chose predator. You wanted a monster for your entertainment. Congratulations. You succeeded beyond your wildest dreams." The final confrontation was brief. Overlord Rixthar had expected to face a human driven by rage and emotion. Instead, he faced something that had evolved beyond human limitations, something that fought with the cold efficiency of a perfect predator. When it was over, Taemin stood alone in the command center. Around him lay the remains of an empire built on the suffering of others. Through the orbital cameras, the galaxy watched as he activated the emergency beacon that would summon rescue ships for the surviving humans. But the victory came at a cost that only Sujin and Minho truly understood. They found him later, sitting in the red rain outside the compound. The alien blood had been washed away, but the look in his eyes remained. He had become something that frightened even himself, something that could never return to the world he had once known. "Is it over?" Sujin asked quietly, sitting beside him in the crimson downpour. "This part is over," Taemin replied. "But they recorded everything. Every alien government, every military organization, every potential threat to humanity now knows what we are capable of when pushed too far." Minho joined them, looking up at the alien ships that were finally coming to evacuate the survivors. "Will that be enough to keep them away from Earth?" Taemin was quiet for a long moment, listening to the sound of red rain falling on purple ground. Finally, he began to laugh. Not the terrifying predator's laugh that had echoed through the galaxy, but something quieter and more human. "They will remember," he said. "Every species that thinks about hunting humans for sport will remember what happened here. They will remember the laughter in the blood rain. They will remember that somewhere among the stars is a species that refuses to accept that anything is impossible, even becoming the monster that monsters fear." The rescue ships arrived within hours, carrying representatives from a hastily formed galactic coalition. The alien governments, horrified by what the orbital broadcasts had revealed about their own society, officially disbanded the Great Hunt and outlawed similar entertainment across known space. But the real change was deeper than laws or regulations. Across the galaxy, predator species looked at their traditional prey with new eyes. The concept of humans had become something that challenged fundamental assumptions about strength, intelligence, and survival. Military strategists studied the footage from Kepler 442b, trying to understand how a single member of a supposedly primitive species had outsmarted and outfought their best warriors. The 48 surviving humans were returned to Earth with full honors and compensation that could never truly pay for what they had endured. Most tried to return to normal lives, though few succeeded completely. The trauma of the hunt had changed them all. Taemin never returned to military service. He could not. The thing he had become on that alien world was too dangerous for normal human society. Instead, he disappeared into the mountains of Korea, living quietly and alone, trying to remember what it felt like to be human. But sometimes, late at night when the rain fell red in his dreams, he would hear reports of alien ships avoiding human space. He would read intelligence briefings about predator species abandoning hunting preserves and releasing their captive prey. He would smile a small, quiet smile and remember the sound of his own laughter echoing through an alien forest. The great hunt was over. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, or their numbers, or their emotions. It was their refusal to accept that anything was impossible, even transforming from prey into something far more dangerous than any predator had ever imagined. And in the depths of space, on worlds that had never heard of Earth or humans, creatures that hunted other sentient beings for sport would sometimes wake in the night, remembering broadcasts of a figure standing in red rain, laughing at the death he had created. The laughter echoed through galactic civilization like a promise and a warning. Humans could be peaceful, they could be civilized, they could be kind and gentle and everything that prey was supposed to be. But they could also be something else entirely when the situation demanded it, something that even the galaxy's apex predators had learned to fear. The blood rain had stopped falling on Kepler 442b, but its memory would last forever.